Hi there, welcome to Susan's 11-Minute Statistics. I'll be talking to you today about some basic data management skills, and specifically I'll show you how to recode variables into new variables in SPSS. Now this is going to be using SPSS 15 today, but pretty much this will go for any of the later SPSS versions through PASW, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll take you right into my SPSS dataset, and you can see that we have a pretty small data set today. We just have 100 participants. This is an artificially constructed data set, of course. And we have a gender variable. And right now you can see that this gender variable is coded into ones and twos. And if I double click on the top of my column here, I can go into the variable view for this variable. And I can see if I click on the right-hand side of my Values tab, I get my values label for this variable. And I can see that ones equal female and twos equal male right now. And I want to dummy code my variable so I can use it in things such as linear regression, where recoding your categorical variables is pretty common. So I'm going to choose a certain coding paradigm today, which is called dummy coding. And all I need to do to go ahead and do this is go up to the Transform tab on my toolbar. And I'm going to choose Recode into different variables. And I typically do this just to keep track of my recoding process, because once you recode into the same variable, it's often hard to keep track of how you've recoded and how often. So recoding into different variables, I'll be able to select the variable that I want to use as my original variable, and I just click that over using this little arrow into my main recoding box here. And I'm going to rename this one dGender, and that's basically just for dummy coded gender variable. And it's really important at this point to hit change, so you can see here in the box how it's going to recode gender into dummy coded gender. And then you'll click here on this tab, Old and New Values. And we have a coding schema right now, as you can still see up here a little bit. 1 equals female and 2 equals male. So I'm going to change this to a 0-1 coding schema. So I'll have 1 or female equaling 0, and I will add that. And then I'll have my 2s or my male participants coded as 1, and I add that as well. Now, if I realized I messed up here because I wanted to do, say, effect coding, and I want to change the syntax of my recode, I can just click on one of these options and either ask it to remove that, or I can just go ahead and change the coding schema by erasing what I have in new values and entering something else. Then I can just hit change, and you have to be sure to hit change, and then you can see that it's recoded in the box. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back, of course, because we're going to be dummy coding this. And some other options here are if you have system missing, which is basically SPSS missing. That's where the little dot gets employed just because you haven't entered any data into that particular cell, or user missing. Say you specified certain missing values in your data set. You can have those equal, for example, system missing, or you can specify new value for those. You can also enter a range here. Let's say I wanted to I had a variable that was on a scale of 1 to 5, and I wanted to recode all 2 through 5s as a certain value. I could do that as well. So you can do ranges here. You can also do lowest range through a certain value or through a highest value. And if you have certain data sets where you just want to keep certain values the way they are, you can also specify the all other values, and you can copy old values as well. So there are all kinds of options here. I'll go ahead and hit continue for my particular command here, and I'm going to paste the syntax so I can see it later exactly what I did. And you can see here it's recoding the gender variable 2s into 1s and 1s into 0s for this new variable, our dummy coded gender. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to highlight it and hit the run button here, which is the arrow button. And I can see that it's done this by just going back into my data set. And if I go into my data view, I can now see that I have a new variable, dGender. And we wanted the females who were coded as 1 to now be 0s, and the males who were coded as 2 to now equal 1. So it looks like it did that pretty well. The only thing you can notice is if you go into this variable by double-clicking on the column title, you can see that we don't have anything entered into values. And that can be really useful later when you're doing analyses if you have the value labels in there so you remember exactly what numbers represented which categories. So we can add that by just clicking in the value box on the little gray tab. It's always in the right hand corner here. And we can go ahead and specify 0, and then I hit the tab key equals female, and I can add that, and then 1 tab male, add that. And if I hit OK, now that's in the values labels. And this can be useful, like I said, in analyses. For example, we can choose Analyze here, and I can show you how this is used. Under Descriptives, I'm going to go to Frequencies. Let's say I want to see with which frequency male and female gender comes up in my sample. I can go ahead and click that over using the little arrow button. And if I say OK, I can now see the percentage of my sample that's male and female. And because I had put the value labels in there, they're pretty clearly labeled also in the analyses and in the output I have. So that is how you can recode variables into new variables. I hope that was helpful, and I hope you join me again. Thanks a lot.